Apologies for my voice in this video, I'm still recovering from a cold. A few weeks ago, commenter Henry Bottomsworth asked if I could come up with a route for getting both of Dark Souls 2's Illusory rings while in the Company of Champions. For those of you unfamiliar with the rings, Dark Souls 2 has 2 challenge runs built into it. You get the Illusory Ring of a Conqueror for beating the game without dying, and the Illusory Ring of the Exalted for beating the game without resting at a bonfire. My original plan was quite simple: get the Moon Butterfly skirt and cheese my way to success with a bow. I then realized you can't get the butterfly skirt in New Game without resting at the Majula bonfire to burn an ascetic. So it would actually be easier to complete this challenge in New Game Plus, where you can start off with a plus 10 weapon, plenty of life gems, and the butterfly skirt. Nonetheless, I was sure I could find a relatively easy way to do it in New Game, and with the route I came up with, I was able to pull it off fairly safely in under 90 minutes. Let's get into the run. We're going to start off as a knight for max health, and choose healing wares as our gift for the extra life gems. Once you're finished making your character, head outside and light the bonfire. Lighting bonfires doesn't count as resting at them, so you're fine to do so. If you don't light this bonfire, the game also likes to warp you back to the game's starting point even after lighting other bonfires, and we'll want to avoid that. You'll also want to smash the cart to get the soul, and then head for Majula. Once in Majula, join up with the Way of the Blue to get the health increasing ring, loot the Homeward Bones, and then it's time to abandon the Way of the Blue and join up with the Company of Champions. If you're just looking to get the rings, there's no need to enter the Company of Champions like I'm doing. It's just part of the requested challenge. For those of you unfamiliar with the effects of the Company of Champions, you deal 20% less damage to enemies, receive around 33% more damage from enemies, can't use summons, and enemies will never despawn regardless of how many times they've died. Our next stop is going to be the Forest of Fallen Giants. Along the way, jump across this gap to get another soul and Homeward Bone. Run past all of the enemies in the following section, and make a stop here to pick up the buckler. Wait a bit for all of the enemies to close in on you, then make a run for the ladder, and head inside the tower. Once inside, head up the stairs on the left, and take out the Hollow who will chase you up there. Smash open the locked door, and take out the Crystal Lizard for a couple shards. Head back down to light the bonfire, pop the souls we picked up, and buy a couple firebombs from Malentia. We only need one, but a backup doesn't hurt in case something goes wrong. Line up with this line on the floor, look all the way down, and throw a firebomb to trigger the explosive barrels on the other side and open the shortcut early. Head out and make your way over to Kale. Speak to him until he gives you the key to the mansion, then warp back to the bonfire. Next up, head into the ballista room, open the chest, and avoid the trap for another shard. Knock on the door, clear out the 3 enemies, then loot the chest for the life ring and a large shard. Equip the 2 health increasing rings, take out the enemy outside the door, drop down to the scaffolding, and clear out the enemies there. Get to full health, unequip everything except for the 2 rings, and jump across. Thanks to the rings, we'll have just enough health to survive, and we can grab the branch. Use a couple life gems when you warp back to the bonfire, and it's time to return to Majula. From Firelink, head towards the Shaded Woods, and pick up the life gems and Homeward Bones along the way. Free Rosabeth, open the gate, and dodge around the enemies while you wait for it to fully open. Carry on to the Ruined Fork Road bonfire, but don't light it. Instead, head into the foggy part of the woods, where we can collect a soul of a proud knight, a soul of a nameless soldier, a large soul of a nameless soldier, and the Chloranthy Ring +1. In the following area, there are 5 Brave Warrior souls and a Titanite chunk to collect. The first soul is right next to the chest with the bone dust in it. Cross the underside of the bridge, and the next soul is on the left. For the chunk, head all the way across the bridge and jump across at the top. If the Forlorn invades you, just force quit out of the game to get rid of her. With the Forlorn no longer an issue, trigger the ghost, then jump back across the gap and wait for him to fall down. Once he does, you can safely loot the chunk from the chest. Grab another life gem next to the pitfall trap, then head to the top of the towers for the 3rd Brave Warrior soul. Smash through the barrels at the ruins at the back of the area, then head up the stairs for the next soul. Finally, head into the lower part of the building in front of the ruins, and smash the barrels to get the final soul. From there, head outside and warp out. Pop 2 of the Brave Warrior souls, then buy all of Malentia's life gems, a bright bug, and Leningrast's key. Speak to Malentia afterwards to receive the covetous Silver Serpent Ring +1, and go through the rest of her dialogue so she'll move to Majula once we beat the last giant. Return to Majula and unlock Leningrast's workshop, then open up the mansion and head upstairs to loot 3 more shards. Pop any souls you haven't, then reload the game so Leningrast moves inside his workshop. When you load back in, buy a rapier and upgrade it to +4. Next, level up at the Emerald Herald, getting 13 dexterity and dumping the rest of the souls into vigor. There's one final stop to make in Majula for now, and that's to get revenge on Malin for not selling us the butterfly skirt in New Game. And also because his outfit gives a significant buff to souls gained. Warp back to the Forest of Fallen Giants, and it's time to fight our first boss. Clear the enemies away from the fog gate so you have enough time to get through, then head down the elevator and into the last giant's arena. There's nothing too noteworthy about the last giant fight. It's not a difficult boss fight, especially with a +4 rapier. So just take your time and bring him down. Pop the last giant soul on the way back up the elevator, and immediately head towards the pursuer. The run up to the pursuer is actually one of the more annoying parts of this route, as depending on what the enemies decide to do, it can be very easy or very hard. You'll want to take out the 3 royal swordsmen on the way to the fog gate. The swordsmen themselves aren't much of a problem. What is a problem is that the royal soldiers from the previous room may decide to chase you. If this happens, you'll want to get some space between yourself and the enemies and take them out one at a time. Once it's safe, head through the fog gate, stand against this barrel, dodge the pursuer's attack, then fire the ballista twice for a free victory. Beating the pursuer gives us the Ring of Blades, which will increase our damage, and we're off to the Lost Bastille. Grab the Dull Ember when you arrive, then grab the large shard from the nearby ledge, and the large shard above Lucatiel. Push the explosive barrel down the stairs, and if it doesn't work properly, use a firebomb to trigger it. Loot the large shards from Macduff's workshop, and take out any enemies that follow you inside. Buy 1 large shard from Macduff, and upgrade your rapier to +7. Warp back to the Forest of Fallen Giants, and make your way back to Majula, using the Pursuer's Soul along the way. Stock up on life gems from Malentia, so you have around 50 or so total. Next, head over to the Emerald Herald and get 19 adaptability to bring us up to 95 agility for the extra iframes. Spend your remaining souls on vigor, but make sure you have at least 1300 left over. We'll then want to head through the first part of the tutorial area and things betwixt. Our goal here is to get to the Crow's Nest, which we can use to quickly break our rapier. You could use Shalquar instead, but I didn't want to hit a talking cat. After the rapier is broken, have Leningrast repair it. The rapier will return to full durability, and it's cheaper than repair powder. Return to the Shaded Woods, and it's time to make some significant progress. This time around, we're going to be heading towards Aldia's Keep. But how do we get inside? We don't have the King's Ring, and we don't have the skirt to parrywalk. If you've ever watched an unrestricted speedrun of Dark Souls 2, you might have seen speedrunners perform a trick called skirtless. As the name implies, it's parrywalking, but without the butterfly skirt. This is normally done by lowering the game's frame rate with external tools to make the trick easy to pull off. But I didn't want to rely on external tools. I wanted this run to require the game, and nothing else. Fortunately, Plupperino, the same glitch hunter who found the current patch method of parrywalking in the first place, has once again come to our rescue with an excellent tutorial on 60 FPS skirtless parrywalking. Skirtless at 60 FPS is not the easiest trick to pull off until you get a feel for it. But learning it will save us from having to route the vast majority of the game and significantly reduce the time involved in doing one of these runs. This makes it much less of a time loss to start a new run if something goes wrong and you die. One of the things I'd like to emphasize from Plup's tutorial is making sure you're close enough to the enemy when you start running. Once I realized I had to be closer to the enemy than I thought I should be, the trick became much more consistent. Outside of that, standard parry walking rules apply. Jump and riposte the enemy at the same time, while by the enemy's foot. This will cause the game to attempt to lock your height to where it was when you landed from the jump, and cause your visual position and true position to desync. Run against the left part of the wall, and move slightly to the left so you end up in the corner at the top of the wall, then run straight at the wall until you go over it. This will get us into Aldia's Keep, and skip a significant portion of the game. One thing to note here is that the Cyan Knight we use to parry walk doesn't respawn, even while in the company of champions, so if he gets low on health in the process of trying to parry walk, warp out and try again. Proceed through the rest of Aldia's Keep like normal, and make your way to the Guardian Dragon. In a speedrun, you'd skip the dragon by parry walking around the cage, but for the sake of avoiding an additional skirtless parry walk, we can just fight him. He's another easy boss, just try to bait out his stomp and attack when you have the opportunity to do so safely. His fire attacks can be avoided by just going to the edge of the arena, and you can use the time from him landing to get some free attacks in. Pop the soul on the way up the elevator, get the aged feather from the Emerald Herald, and zipline your way across the Dragon Eyrie. Time for one of the scarier parts of this run. Be prepared to dodge if either enemy decides to attack as you're going up the stairs. Squeeze past the hammer-wielding enemy as you're going through the next section, ready to dodge again. Clear the next enemy a few steps away from the door, then make a break for it. Watch which side the enemy in the middle of the following stairs goes towards as you approach, and go around him on the opposite side. In the last corridor, stick to the right and dodge when the enemies attack, then run past the dark brown ring of bricks by the ancient dragon, where you're finally safe. Return to the Forest of Fallen Giants for the final time. Set up parry walk on the enemy outside the door, and float above the giant tree so you fall on top of it. Head into the Memory of Jay, wait for a wave of the explosives to go off, then run through to here to avoid the statue's head. Wait for the explosive to land next to you, then it's time to take on the Giant Lord. The Giant Lord is another easy boss, but when he does hit, he hits like a truck. The safest way to take him out is to just stand outside of his left foot and bait him into stomping. Even if he does a different attack, if you're outside of his left foot, you'll be safe. Using this tactic, we can bring him down in a couple minutes with very little risk. Grab the soul of a giant on the way out, and then we have one final stop to make before we leave the forest for good. Return to the area past the Pursuer's Arena, and drop down to collect the Drenglaic set. The important part of it is the shield, which completely negates physical damage. Head back to Majula and pop the Giant Lord's soul and the Giant Soul along the way. We can finally light the Majula bonfire, then buy max light gems from Malentia. Break your rapier and warp back to Majula, or forget and walk back instead. Repair your rapier and buy an emergency repair powder from Leningrast. We shouldn't need it, but just in case. Finally, level up at the Emerald Herald, getting 30 dexterity and vigor, and 32 adaptability for 105 agility and even more iframes. If you have extra souls, put them into endurance. If you still have 6,000 souls left over, you can buy another Brightbug from Malentia. This is again a backup, and we shouldn't need it. Return to the Shaded Woods, and this time, light the Ruined Fork Road bonfire. This time around, we're going to take the path towards Drenglaic Castle. Take out the Bow Falconer, then prepare to parry walk again. You'll want to unequip the Ring of Blades to deal less damage to the Falconer, and maximize your attempts. If you do kill him, just warp with the Aged Feather, and try again. The Falconer is one of the harder enemies to pull off skirtless on, but as long as you've practiced it beforehand, it shouldn't be too bad. When you pull it off, run at the hillside to get out of bounds, and run across to skip the Shrine of Winter and get to Drenglaic Castle. Head out into the rain, and then use a Brightbug, and save and quit. For whatever reason, if you save and quit with the bright bug effect active and your character wet, the bright bug will last indefinitely. This means we'll be buffed by the bright bug for the rest of the run. Make your way to the entrance of the castle, and lure the archer on the right to follow you off to the side. Use him to set up parrywalk, and then we're going to make our way out of bounds, following a specific path to get into the Throne of Want. In the first section, don't get too close to the rocks at the base of the castle, or you'll deload the enemy and plummet to your death. Here, walk directly into the rock, and start moving to the left. You'll then want to walk around the wall you can see in front of us. Run a little towards the bit of rock geometry you can see, then turn towards the castle geometry you can see in the background, and you should hit a wall and start moving down. From there, when parrywalk wears off, you'll drop directly into the Throne of Want. There's 2 boss fights left between us and victory, the first of which is an annoying double boss. Fortunately, it is possible to get the Throne Watcher to fall off the ledge and make the fight into a fair 1v1. The trouble is being able to do it consistently. Fortunately, Dark Souls 2 speedrunner Stennis did a teaching stream a while back which shows how to consistently make the Watcher fall off. The stream was done on old patch original Dark Souls 2, so bino boosting is used in the setup. But if you ignore that, the setup works perfectly fine on Scholar. Equip and two-hand the Dranglaic shield, and remember to re-equip the Ring of Blades unlike me. Head inside and get close enough to the defender so he attacks. This will cause the Watcher to be more aggressive. Make your way over to the left corner and position your character so their left foot is on the corner of the snowy tile by the pit. If you get a bad pattern, such as the defender being in front of the Watcher, or you mess it up, run to safety and save and quit to try again. Between me messing up and getting bad RNG, it took a few tries to pull off. When everything goes right, it'll look something like this. Bait out the defender's attack and get in position. Block the first attack of the Watcher's combo, and then move around her. She'll either go right off, or get stuck at the very corner, and fall the rest of the way off. With her gone, we only have to deal with the defender, and he's not too bad on his own. Strafe around him, dodge when he attacks, and hit him afterwards. Just don't mess up at the very end when he's one hit away from death, and get grabbed like me. But even with that mistake, I was still able to get him down, and proceed to the final fight. Nishandra is all that's left now, and again, she's not a difficult boss. Start off by running towards her to make her summon her curse things, then run off to either the left or the right side. She might use her beam attack a couple times, but will eventually make her way over towards you. When she does, you can safely attack her without having your health drained and getting cursed. Just as a note, getting cursed does not count as dying, it's just better to avoid it for safety reasons. She will eventually summon more curse things, and when she does, move over to the opposite side. This will leave you with plenty of space to attack her safely. From there, it's more or less rinse and repeat until she's dead. With Nishandra's defeat, the challenge is done. The only thing left to do is to trigger the game's ending. Several sources say that skipping the ending cutscene will prevent you from getting the rings, but after testing, skipping the cutscene seems to be fine. It's the credits you can't skip. Doing this on New Game, the credits aren't skippable, so there should be no risk of losing the rings. However, if you did this on New Game Plus or higher, don't skip the credits or you won't get the rings. A few seconds after the last of the credits goes by, you should be given the prompt for each ring, and it's finally done. I tried to cover all of the important bits of the run in this video, but if you'd like to see the entire run uncut, I've uploaded it as an unlisted video, and the link will be in the description. Links to the guides I mentioned earlier will also be in the description. In any case, I hope you found this video helpful or entertaining, and I will see you guys in another video.